Hello and welcome. I'm Saima Prabhu, General Manager at Cognizant Softvision, and I welcome all of you. Our topic today and our session today is Go Beyond, Breaking the Invisible Chains and Accelerating a Career. Today with us, I have three fantastic, extraordinary women on the panel. Please join me in welcoming Tammylynne Jonas, Global CIO and Savvy CIO of Francesca. I have Lisa Schlosser, Executive Director at Technovation, MN, and Georgina Florian, She-Wolf and CEO at Wolfpack Digital. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
In today's format, what we will be doing is I'll be breaking the session up into 4 different parts. Each part will have a corresponding question. And at any time, my dear audience, at any time, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat window. And we'll make sure as we go through our 4 questions and 4 parts today, we will take those questions on and address those. The reason I'm breaking up the session into 4 different parts is to create a framework for you, a framework that you can leverage after the session to self-reflect, analyze, and find out ways you can accelerate your career. With that, let us go with our first question, and that will be for Tammylynne. And the question is, the basic question, what does go beyond mean to you as an individual, as a person, as an individual?
For me, go beyond means going beyond what you thought was possible or what your experience tells you. I grew up as an only child, adopted, and my family is great. My parents are great, but we didn't have very much money. So neither one of my parents went to college. I grew up in a 900 square foot house with 1 bathroom. I didn't know a lot, right? And my parents didn't have corporate careers. I just didn't even understand what kind of jobs existed in the world. I knew I wanted to go to college, but beyond that, I just didn't know what was there. And, I'm the first person on either one of my family sides to go to college, the first one to get a master's degree, the first one to have a professional career. And for me, going beyond is going beyond what you saw in your own personal experiences, going beyond what you could have possibly imagined. I feel, and I don't want this to sound, hokey, but I feel incredibly blessed and grateful for everything that I've got. Everything is beyond what I could have ever imagined. Every house that we've owned has ever been bigger than anything we could have imagined before. Every job that I've had has been more and, more challenging and more wonderful than anything I could have imagined. So for me, going beyond is, thinking beyond what your immediate purview is in life and, achieving things that you never could have even thought of.
That's awesome. Lisa, did you want to add to it, or Georgina?
Yeah, I do. Just to kind of add on to what Tammylynne was talking about, I've always enjoyed trying new things, and I kind of think of going beyond in like 3 different parts. There's kind of the play, some people, and work. And, for play, I'm a major sports fan. I love playing, I love watching, and going beyond is sort of like bringing your body and your mind beyond things that you've ever done before. And sports is a lot about setting goals and seeing how you can achieve them and surpass them. It's also sort of helped me go beyond too, in the sense of trying new things. So I think I played co-ed soccer, then I never played soccer, and like when I was 32 years old. I'm now on a curling team, trying to figure out that whole sport, and I really want to try rowing. So I haven't tried that yet, so I got to try that. So I like how it expands my body and my mind. I also think so there's also a people aspect to it for me. So I'm a self-proclaimed introvert for sure, and I get my energy from being alone and having quiet time. And I've had to go beyond and develop strategies for entering a room with a bunch of people that I don't know. Even being on this panel, develop strategies that help me with public speaking, because I get super nervous and, just have to sort of figure out all that. I did my first podcast with Tech MN, which was for me a very scary environment. So there's that aspect of people. And then finally at work, going beyond. So I worked at the same company for 33 years. I worked at Thomson Reuters, and you might ask, well, how was that going beyond if you never left the company? But I had a lot of jobs inside of that company. I worked with every major business unit. I went from software development to data center at a time when people are like, oh my God, why are you doing that? And that job actually helped me get future jobs because I had that experience and had that kind of new network. You know, I've got to travel the world, experience different cultures, which is definitely another going beyond aspect. And now going beyond for me is really like giving back to the community through board and volunteer work as I run a nonprofit.
Yeah, and I just want to add that if you think you're nervous or anything like that, you absolutely don't look any of that. You're a great public speaker. I'd say if anything, you're too humble and modest. So if you're nervous, you're hiding it extremely
You just can't see how much I'm sweating right now, right?
That makes two of us. Georgina.
Yeah, so I really love the answers that Lisa and Tammylynne already gave, and I resonate with them. For me, going beyond is first of all about following my passion and curiosity wherever it takes me. And of course, it's about walking the extra mile and exceeding any targets that we set together with the team or in our family or wherever. And of course, it's also about overcoming obstacles and stepping out of my comfort zone, so conquering my own fears. And I think one of the greatest points in my life where I decided to go beyond is when I decided to start my own company. So that was a huge step. And it really meant stepping out of my comfort zone and out of everything that I'd ever known before, especially since I'm the first entrepreneur ever in our family. So some of my family still don't understand what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and they still ask me. But I think it's overall a great topic, and overall going beyond for me is growing personally and professionally, and it's not just about unlocking achievements.
No, that's awesome answers. I think for myself too, as I was growing up, I had a mom. My mom was always such that I wouldn't say she would push me aggressively, but every time I did something, she challenged me to do something else. So for me, going beyond felt that's what she did. That's normal. And now if I don't have situations where I feel I can go beyond my imagination or try something I never did in the past, I just don't enjoy it anymore. So sometimes I think it's also how, you've been engraved for a long time and all the people that have influenced your life and how you connected all together. I think this is a perfect transition to the second question. And my friends that have all joined this call and are attending, I want to explain the first part of the framework, which was basically trying to understand as an individual, what does go beyond mean for you? I know the ladies have done an excellent job explaining what it means to them, but that's the first part of the framework. When you're done with the session and you're relaxing, think about what go beyond means to you as an individual. Now, part two of the framework that will help all of us together is to understand what is going on in the executive's mind, right? For some people, going above and beyond could mean I should work 10 hours days. I should work 12 or 13. I should be the first one in the office, the last one out. And in their mind, they might be going above and beyond till they get a review and they're like, what just happened here? Because it could happen that the sponsor of the project or somebody else was not really expecting you to do so many long hours. Maybe they were thinking going above and beyond meant being more creative, thinking outside the box. Who knows? It could be anything, right? So I want to use this opportunity when I have three amazing women together to find out what do executives think, right? What is go beyond for the employers at such executive positions? What are they looking for? And with that, maybe Georgina, this time you could start first.
Yeah, thank you. So I absolutely love the question. I think in short, for me, going beyond in terms of what employees or team members do is all about working smart, not necessarily working long hours. It's about meeting realistic goals that we set together and just being ingenious all together whenever it's needed. And of course, we can harness the power of the team. We don't need to find ingenious solutions, each of us individually, every single time. And speaking of going beyond, I think it's important to also consider if the leader has like a habit out of going beyond on a regular basis, let's say, because if you're the kind of person that's super ambitious and goes beyond, then people of course can see you, and you also attract in your team the kind of people that go beyond. And here, of course, I think the key is that they also go beyond, but by inspiration, not by expectation. Because when you create the expectation for people to go beyond and like exceed their targets every single time, then that's really unhealthy. And whatever somebody does, it's never enough. And that's like definitely not something that we want in any sustainable organization. So overall, my expectation is for my team on a day-to-day basis to achieve the things that we agree on, and we set those goals together, so in a collaborative manner. And this may mean that on some days, but I strongly believe these should be exceptions, you need to pull harder. And then of course, this means that in the next few days, you'll be taking it easier. Like for example, if we have a deadline and there are some extra hours needed today, then for sure tomorrow there will be some hours off, or an activity that's, you know, lighter, more fun. So definitely going beyond is not about working hard and working long hours. And on the theme of having like a sustainable workplace, which I really think is essential if we are to go beyond when we're looking on the higher level of where the organization or the team is going. I actually read some interesting articles and books on the topic of how our energy works as humans. And as humans, we're not really built for endless marathons, regardless if we're talking about sports marathons, physical ones, or intellectual or emotional. And we need to follow our own energy whenever possible. And rest is, of course, super important. And since I was also mentioning goals, setting attainable goals, I think, of course, as we become more mature and we get better at everything that we do as a team, we should, of course, aim to making those goals gradually more ambitious, but this again needs to be sustainable. So yeah, all in all, I think going beyond is about meeting the realistic goals, working smart, and of course enjoying, celebrating every time we have a huge achievement that goes beyond our expectations.
Yeah, you know, I kind of the role that I'm in now is a nonprofit, and so I am a team of one. Essentially, I'm the only employee of the nonprofit, but the work gets done through our organization, through our volunteers and our board members and our committee members. And so when I think about going beyond with that team, it's really a delicate balance. Most of the people that are volunteering have a day job, and so they are giving their free time and saying that they want to, you know, work with our organization to help inspire these girls to pursue technology. And so I have to keep in mind that at any point in time they could resign and say, you know, I can't do this anymore, and you know, of all my priorities, this isn't my top one. And so it's just a really delicate balance. And I think it's a little, when I think back to my corporate life, it's a little like trying to influence across organizations, you know, where you have to get a team together to go beyond, to get things done. but you don't necessarily own them in a reporting structure. And so there's some strategies, and it's just sort of a delicate balance in helping or in trying to understand how to make that work. The other, going back to my corporate life and our teams, kind of piling on to what Georgina was saying, rewarding. So we got in this habit of rewarding the hero, right? So the hero, something breaks and they come in and they work long hours and they do all this amazing stuff. And then we reward them, we pat them on the back, but we started to kind of rethink that and say, well, is that what we really want to reward? Like we have to, things are going to break and we have to get that, but is there a way to reward the person that prevented the issue in the first place? So, shouldn't we, is that really status quo, or should we be trying to find a way to reward those types of efforts? And so the way that manifested itself in the team as we thought about it was we were having a lot of problems with releases. And every month we'd do a release and, everything would break and there'd be people online in all different countries trying to figure out what was wrong and stuff. And so we started to take that and build metrics around it, measure it, share it. We posted it, but in our team area, talked about it all the time. And we started to reward things like automation. And we came together, like Georgina was talking about, we came together and celebrated when we were below our issues for the month. And, because we were automating and kind of taking some of the possible people issues or opportunities for people to make a mistake, kind of taking that off the plate, we got better and better and better. And, I look at that and say, that to me is a way of going beyond. It's thinking about things in a different way, and it's kind of taking your employees and finding ways to reward people in different ways.
Lisa, I don't know how many people in the audience are right now, you might have touched a nerve, in a good way, right? As I've seen this review after review, there is a culture in corporate America, and I'm sure I don't know for sure if it's everywhere, but there is the hero, the shiro, awarding people. And the most noticeable when you save the ship from sinking, right? So it's something like that. And then the ones that have been doing it for the last 1 year to keep everything in place, always thinking, how do I get noticed? What does it mean to me? And it's really interesting discussions during review process, because there are a lot of people that try to maybe take measures initially too. I'm in no way saying that the people that save the world at the end of the day are not important, but it's also, I love the fact that you brought up that it's people who do it every single day, and and you're thinking about it. And to hear somebody at your level say that you're looking at these things, thinking at it, I'm sure a lot of people that are listening get hope that people actually look at your entire performance, and it's not just one glorious scene that you get acknowledged for. Tammylynne, what are you thinking?
No, really great contributions from Lisa and Georgina. For me, on my team, I feel like going beyond is a mindset, and I'm looking for people to go beyond the tasks that have been assigned and the work that they're doing. It's not, to your point, Lisa, it's not about just doing more of the work, and it's not just about more of the hours. But looking at it more strategically, is there something that we can improve? Is there something that we don't understand? Are there discrete tasks that we should be kind of putting together? Like, I'm looking for them to think more big picture about things, and it's hard to do that because we're so into the tasks and we're so into getting the work done. But for me, going beyond demonstrates a larger level of comprehension of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and I also feel that as employers, keep encouraging people for that mindset, right? What's going to happen, I feel, is there's going to be a larger teamwork aspect. because a lot of times people are just so involved in what about me and my performance. But sometimes going beyond is also thinking about what if I built something or did something that can make work easier for somebody else too, or march towards the larger vision of the company. So these are all really good tips that y'all are giving. It's a mindset. And I know we don't have an audience sitting in with us, but I'm sure there's a lot of heads nodding, saying, yes, it's not about putting in tons and tons of hours every single day, but it is more about the mindset and putting the hours when it's really needed and things need to be done. So thank you. And now I would like to go to the third part of the session. And the third part of the framework basically is looking at, one, you analyzed what go beyond means for you as an individual. Second, you took the time to find out what go beyond means to your company, to your employer, to your sponsor, to your client, whoever you're working with, right? What go beyond means to them. So that way you're all on the same page. But then there are also times that there's the reality of the world we live in. There's certain things that are not in our control, whether it's part of our community, it's culture. Like, I'll give some examples, right? Sometimes women, or why just women, anyone in minority sometimes has this feeling that they have to work much harder and have to continuously prove themselves to even be relevant or to be noticed. Forget about even going beyond, right? I have a lot of offshore people tell me that at times they feel that they just have to somehow keep trying to prove themselves to show that they're as good, if not better, than the consultant onshore. So I know I'm going into little choppy waters over here, but there is nothing that these three on this panel, these three bold, ferocious women cannot handle, right? So with that, I'm going to go into a very sensitive question, and I will start with Lisa. Lisa, do you think that the idea, right, the idea of go beyond changes depending on gender, age, economic situations, physical locations, or other things?
Yeah, so let's start with some data. So my expertise is more around women in technology, and if we look at women in corporate America, McKinsey & Company has a report that they do annually. It started in 2015, and so it usually comes out in September. So I expect a new one to be coming out soon, and it's a great resource for understanding metrics. The 2020 report indicates that women make up 47% of entry-level corporate positions. And there's 5 levels described there, and at the top level, at the C-suite level, that number goes to 21%, so 47 to 21%.
Oh.
Breaking that down another level, that 47% of women at the entry level equates to 29% white women and 18% women of color. At the C-suite level, it breaks down to 19% white women and 3% women of color. So you can't read the news without sort of seeing that there's been a push to get more women on boards and women in C-suite level, and it's great to see that the improvement is happening somewhat at the levels. At the SVP and the C-suite level, the share of women grew 18% in the SVP role and 22% in the C-suite role. For the other ones, it's like 3 to 5%. So I mean, that's like a significant difference over time. So the efforts that people are doing are making a difference. But women are still, underrepresented in corporate, particularly women of color, even though the numbers are improving. So the pandemic, though, is coming along, and so when they did the report last year, what they saw anecdotally is that 2 million women were thinking about leaving the workforce.
Wow.
And many many of you probably experience, some aspect of that. Your kids aren't in school, you're trying to juggle all these things and trying to figure out how to make all this work. So it'll be interesting to see the report in 2021 here when it comes out, and see if that prediction or what that prediction shows with the numbers. So if we start with almost half, 47%, and by the time we get to the C-suite, it's 21%, what accounts for that? The two biggest drivers of representation are hiring and promotions. So for every 100 men promoted to manager, only 85 women overall were promoted, and that is 58 Black women and 71 Latina. The change from 2015 is encouraging, but if companies continue to hire and promote women to manager at the current rates, the number of women in management will increase by just 1 percentage point over the next 10 years. If companies hire and promote women and men to manager at equal rates, we should get close to parity in management over that same 10 years. So little differences can make such a difference down the road, and so one of the things, as I mentioned before, that we're seeing is that we're seeing companies wanting to diversify their teams. There are efforts out there, but in doing so, it's not uncommon to be on a team where you're the only. So women who are the onlys have a significantly worse experience than women who work with other women. Sticking out as an only can make the biases faced by women become more pronounced. That one woman often becomes a stand-in for all women and becomes a litmus test for what women are capable of doing. It is not uncommon to be sitting around a table in a team full of men. I'm the only woman, and they'll look at me and say, well, what do women think of this? It's like, well, I'm one, and Lisa, and this is what I think of it, but that's not uncommon to hear. And women onlys also feel twice the pressure to provide more evidence of their competence over men. And so when you think about going beyond, if that's the case, if you're a minority in an organization or on a team, and you're experiencing that, only, you're going beyond is almost like you have to do that just to maintain sort of some semblance of status quo, just to survive. And so I do think it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I also have to share a story. I know we're going on a little bit of a tangent, but I do want to share a story. As the last time I did a panel with Lisa, and I think maybe 3 years, Lisa, we were on a panel together, and Lisa is amazing when it comes to looking at the metrics. No wonder even her current job, she is working at the grassroots level with the younger gals, the girls in middle school, high school, so that she's building this pipeline of fascinating young entrepreneurs, of women that go into the tech field. So she's working at the grassroots levels. But Lisa might not even realize the impact she has on people. But I have to say, after the last panel that I did with her, and the reason I'm sharing this is because I want the audience to know that these sessions are not just meant for few women to talk together. It's meant so that you can take something, even if it's just one thing out of it, and go change something for yourself. And what I'd done after that panel was I took Lisa, sent a document out with the metrics, and I took that and I sent it to my boss at then, the person I reported to, the COO, Scott. He knows that I can talk about him anytime. And I told him I wanted to read it. And I knew that given that he was a CFO, COO, he's so much into the data, he will read it out of curiosity, if nothing. But what that did is it gave the two of us an opportunity to meet the following week and just chat about certain things. And he was like, I would have never thought about these things. And now that I look at some of this, I can see, Saima, why you behave a certain way, which might look like maybe you're not confident. But no, that's how we are perceiving you. It's not you, actually. So sometimes I feel that taking the information you have and showing a person, hey, this is the reality of my situation, but this is me at my max throttle, right? And the other person looking at it, acknowledging it. And I've always believed that I don't need special privileges being a woman or being minority or being above a certain age. I never expect that. But what I do expect is that the person I report to creates that relationship with me where they can see me for who I am rather than perceive me for something else, right? With that, I know I did a little tangent because I know all of you listening can utilize some of Lisa's data and think about it. But I know Tammylynne and Georgina have very valuable insights in this too.
I think it's interesting because we're encouraged to be vulnerable. We're encouraged to come up as our full self into the workplace. But I do feel that the expectations and I don't think they're just self-imposed, but I feel like the way the world sees you professionally, it changes based on, what's happening in your life. And I'll give an example. So before I had kids, worked all the time, didn't think anything of it, had my first kid, and I was like, I had better look buttoned up when I get in the office, because if I go in without makeup, or they're going to think that like I'm up all night with the baby. And before I had kids, I never thought about it. I could go in without makeup or a ponytail, whatever. But I'm like, I should really just pay attention to this now. And, even in people on my team that, I would be coaching, I would say, I think it's great to share things with your family too, but also be cognizant of the way the world views you, right? So when people ask you and you're coming back to maternity leave, how's the baby? Talk about it, but I wouldn't go on and on about how you were up all night and you can't sleep. Like they don't need to hear that right now. And it's funny because I'm not saying that people shouldn't be honest and tell their truth with it, but I do feel like the expectations and the way the world views you is different, right? So I have 3 kids, and so I'm very open with my team about family commitments and things like that. But I think over-index on the fact that you can always call me anytime, right? You can call me at night, you can call me on the weekends, you can text me anytime, I'll get right back to you. And I feel like I need to over-index on that availability in case I need to be gone at some point in time during the day for a family commitment. I need to like double down and show my commitment and my availability outside of traditional office hours.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of you follow Tammylynne on LinkedIn, but if you do, you would have seen her post. She posted a picture of her and her daughter. The daughter was, I think, sleeping on your shoulder as you were trying to take a call, right? And you said, it's okay. And this is real life in pandemic, and it's okay. The child needed a few hugs in the morning, and the mom had to be doing the important work, and it's okay to do. And, I had to look at it and comment, because I was just wondering, why did people not do this when I had a baby, right? It was like, I would be paranoid. I would be extra stressed. If I requested for a day to work from home, I would feel so guilty, and I would try to overcompensate. And I'm not saying my employer did anything. It's me. I had all this in my mind that I had to overcompensate. I had to do, because it was never normal to see any of that. And I thank you, women, in such powerful positions. You're in such powerful position in terms of how you'll recruit, hire, your ideas, your insights, your contribution to the community, whether you're in a nonprofit community or a company that's entirely for profit, doesn't matter, but you are inspiring so many people, right? And even little things that you do in your daily life, like putting a photograph on LinkedIn, shows people that this is normal. These are real human beings. Just because they're at a CIO level, they're not somebody unapproachable, or they're real people, right? Georgina, I see you nodding. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great that in the past few years, we have this great opportunity of reshaping perception in general. And of course, there's a lot of affirmative action going on. And we all know about Reese Witherspoon's film producing company that only produces films with female lead characters. So definitely changing these perceptions, especially for the younger girls, it's going to mean a lot. So it's going to mean the world to them. And going back to the question, I would say that still, unfortunately, yes, there is an impact of gender, age, economic background, and so on. With respect to what going beyond means. And of course, you need to work harder to get to certain positions and to be listened to. And we still don't have equal opportunities, but we are definitely taking the right steps in that direction. And numbers are showing it because they are getting better and better. And that really makes me very happy. But I think all in all, my approach to this topic is that I choose to look at the bright side. So although it's still really not that fair, that as women, maybe we need to work harder in certain situations, it does have some advantages, because I think that as you work harder, or you need to be more creative, more resourceful, whatever, you actually become brilliant. And in the end, this will pay off. And this is how I prefer to look at it. And I think if we choose to go for the positive mindset, it's definitely going to help us to get to where we want even sooner. So yeah.
Teams are resilient. So whether it's your work team or your family or whatever, and you if you need something, so if you have a family and you need to, sometimes go run an errand or go watch a game or whatever, like that's okay. And teams are resilient and they'll live. My family, I remember, I like to run. And I'm not a morning runner. I like to run after work. It's kind of therapeutic. It's like a downtime. It's just something I need to do for my own health. And because of that, I'd come home from work and the kids would be like, well, when are we going to eat supper? And I'd be like, get a damn snack, because I'm going running. And so they adjusted. Like, we became the family that ate supper at, 6:37 or, whatever it happened to be. That's who we are. And that's the way it works. And you just sort of form your norms around that. And you don't have to try to be like, whatever, the perfect mom or the perfect parent, or the perfect boss. There's these combinations of things, and your teams are resilient and they'll adjust.
I love everything that you said, and I'm an avid follower of Indra Nooyi, former CEO of PepsiCo. And it's interesting, in her interviews also, she says there's just never time to be the perfect mom, right? And how she would actually have people in her team actually take the first call that came from the child to understand the urgency level. And it didn't make her a bad mom, but she did give out some good tips of certain things you have to do so you can cope. And I think it's important for all of us to realize that we're human beings. Self-care is really important too. And if we don't look after ourselves, we are not going to be able to do more for others too. With that, I think we've done part one of a framework that was evaluating what go beyond means for us as an individual. Then we went into part two of the framework, that was, what is your employer thinking? What are people around you thinking about what go beyond means for that company? Part three, we've looked into the reality of the world we live in, and what are the factors that can affect us or don't affect us. And now I want to go into the fourth part. And I think this is where the meat is. This is where I want you all to self-reflect. So the fourth part, I call it self-reflecting, looking at your individual self and trying to say that I looked at all the other three factors, right? What is there still out there that is not letting me grow? What does that mean? That means we all have some invisible chains that have tied us up and are not letting us get bold or explode in our careers, right? Just go with that whole force. Something is tying us back. And the fact is, the only person that can really analyze what's tying you back is you, the individual, right? And so I know that now it's like getting into a very personal question for the three of them. And I believe as a moderator that I will never ask a question that I won't answer myself. So and I'll start with the answer for this one, so it will give them a little time to think. So the question I'm going to ask is, what are the invisible chains that had tied us in our careers? How did we identify it? And what did we do to break it and come out of it, right? Or did we choose not to do anything, but we did identify what's holding us behind? So I can talk for myself because it's such a personal question. It's like you're showing your cards to everybody. You're showing something really that held you behind for years, and now you're exposing yourself to the entire audience. But that's what we want to do. We want to be candid and be truthful as much as possible to give you some tools. So I'd say I realized over the last few years, when I did a self-introspection, that I have a lot of invisible chains, believe me, I'm a person with a lot of issues, but two of them, one was extreme loyalty. And by extreme loyalty, I mean loyal not to the company. I was very loyal to the company, but more than the company, I am extremely loyal to the people that work with me, right? And I will always catch myself saying, my people, right? And I realized very soon that I was not going to jump company to company every 2 years to get the job I wanted or to get the increases I wanted, because there was something that tied me behind. And what tied me behind, my invisible chain, was my people, right? And what I decided a couple of years back to do is to make sure that, because it was something I didn't want to easily break, I chose not to break the chain, right? I identified it, I chose not to break it because I get so much more from them. So, but I had to make my chain into something positive for me. And what I did is I realized that instead of this being an chain, the invisible chain holding me behind in my career, I was going to make it a chain or a rope that I can actually hold on to and pull myself up and grow in my career and center myself around people. So that is one of the invisible chains that I recognized, and I took it to my advantage. And now that's my strength. My people are my strength, and I succeed every time I invest in them. And the other chain that I saw and I had to break, because for me, it was a negative chain. And that was learning to keep your identity of your work activities different from how you feel about yourself. So I've been fortunate that in my career, most of my projects have been extremely, extremely successful. I've been called rock star, but there are a lot of times, that you will have people that don't agree with your plans or don't like the way you work or something, right? There's always something. We are human beings, and there's always something. I'm married for 22 years. There's always something, right? That someone won't agree with you. And what used to happen is I would let a person's agreement or disagreement on how I work affect how I felt successful or a failure as a human being. And that, once I realized it, what a gift, because I had to work hard to break that chain, because my work activities should be different. That's a totally different thing. I'm successful, not. I should take feedback. I should continuously grow. But who I am as an individual and a human being, really, that I have to control on myself. And the happier I am, the more I feel successful, the more I'm maximizing my capabilities. I've just become stronger. So that's, I've exposed two, and now let's see what a panel has.
I think when you talk about the invisible chains that you've got that hold you back, obviously everybody's is different. For me, I think being a pleaser is something that I have to be aware of my my tendencies with that. And it's not that I'm not a yes man. I don't tell people what they want to hear, but I'm always aware when I'm going to share something that's unpopular, and I can share those unpopular beliefs. It's fine, but when I understand that what I'm doing is going to cause consternation in a relationship, when it's going to cause friction, those are the times where I probably spend more time thinking about it than I should. And you've all heard, our male colleagues get praised for like, yeah, he's not afraid to crack a few eggs. And, men are really rewarded for that type of behavior. Whereas with women, I think we're always expected to take a more collaborative approach. We're expected to, build teams and partnerships and, navigate the organization seamlessly. Like the expectations are different for us. And so for me, I think, one of those things that I have to always be aware of is, I want people to be happy with me. I want them to like working with me. I want them to be an advocate and a sponsor for me. And when I'm doing things that I know might jeopardize that, that's when I really have to, fortify my courage to still do the right thing. It never clouds my vision, but sometimes it can erode my confidence or my self-assurance to do what I know is the right thing.
That's bearing it all. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my invisible chain, because this is a very interesting question, is in a way similar to Tammylynne's. And I feel that I managed to break it a few years ago, but it's still laying around somewhere quite close by. So I need to be very careful about it. And I think the way I would call it is maybe excess empathy. And especially since we started off with a startup mindset in the team, it felt pretty much like a family. So it was kind of hard in the first few years to sort of separate friendship from the more professional side. And I think if you are not careful about having like just the right degree of empathy, it's very easy to step into the other person's shoes, maybe even permanently. And this makes holding people accountable very, very difficult. So yeah, I think the way that I broke that chain, of course, first of all, I had to become aware of it. And, just be aware of the fact that, at the end of the day, I'm still in my own shoes and you're in yours. And I just consciously decided to place myself into situations where I had to have those difficult conversations. And I found that empathy that up until then was maybe one of my enemies became my biggest friend and my biggest strength, because I found that some of the most difficult conversations could be had with great results, like for both parties, really. So yeah, that was mine.
Yeah, and I don't know how many women have told me exactly the chain you're talking about. And I don't know how many even know that they're stuck into this whole empathy loop where, that it's actually after when you cross a fine line, and it's the line you have to create in your head, right? When you cross it, it's really difficult and it pulls you back, right? I love it. I know a lot of them are nodding. Lisa.
I think mine comes from, again, probably my love of sports and being competitive. And I always, it's like when you're in that mode, you're working hard, your head's down, you're running, you're doing whatever. And I took that to work. And so I always thought that my manager would see me working hard and take care of me and promote me and give me raises and things like that. And it took me a while to sort of figure out that I own my career path, not my manager. So now don't get me wrong, good managers really, they should remove hurdles, they should provide opportunity for growth. There's a partnership there, but I really have to own my own career path. And that took me a while to figure out. So some of the things that some of the skills or tricks that I used in kind of looking at that is, you know, thinking about the skills you want to develop. So ask yourself, does your current job allow you to develop those skills? Most companies, especially big companies, post their positions internally. Would another job inside of your organization provide the skills that you are looking for? I did this little exercise where I kind of drew myself in the middle of this little wheel and kind of went around at Thomson Reuters and said, well, here's all the technology teams that, you know, are available to me and all the different skills I can develop. I knew I wanted to stay in technology, so I didn't have to like go beyond that. And then just kind of say, well, which ones have I worked in? Which ones would I be interested in developing skills for? And then kind of building some sort of plan on, you know, do I want to move and how long, and kind of keep an eye out for things. Another strategy is just think about how connected you are, you know, within the company and outside the company. I can't tell you how many times I sat across from colleagues that were finding themselves in transition and saying, well, you know, I don't know anybody outside the building. Like, how did you develop your network? And I can tell you without a doubt that when you're in transition or entering transition, that is not the time to think about, oh, I don't have a network. You know, it's something that you have to be watching and doing all the time. And, you know, and it's fun. Like, you know, it's fun to meet people. It's fun to learn what other companies are doing. You can bring those best practices back into your organization. So, you know, kind of be involved in the community. And then one last strategy I'll throw out is just volunteer roles can actually help you develop skills that you may not get in your current role. So the nonprofit jobs that I've had now, I've had to wear so many hats. I've had to create a marketing plan. I've had to find a CRM, edit a website, manage a budget. Like, I mean, you name it, you know, it is not technology. It's a lot of other things. And my motion is typically do some research, kind of figure out the language and what I want to ask, put together some sort of draft, phone a friend that maybe has some expertise in that area. And, you know, so I'm developing my skills that way. So, you know, again, the message, you own your own career path and you got to kind of figure out what that is. And your manager is not going to just, you know, push you along to, you know, your desired place. You got to figure out what that is for you.
I think these are all wonderful answers. I know we are at the 4-minute mark, and I see that we are being flooded with questions, which just shows how much people are really enjoying. I don't know if we have time to cover everything, but why don't we try at least one or two, right? And so one of the questions is, what was pivotal breakthrough moment in your career that led to more opportunities?
For me, it was leaving my developer career behind and deciding to focus on project management more, because this also gave me the opportunity to have more time for business development in the company, again, in the early days. And it was very difficult for me to sort of shed my identity as a technical person. But in the end, this really meant a lot to the business.
I see the next question. But this one, I've seen it a lot, and I'm sure somebody needs to hear it today. We often see assertive, powerful women labeled as bossy, while men behaving the same way as seeing as having an executive presence. What's your thoughts on it?
I would love to take this one. I went through an interview process in the past year, and the feedback that I got from the recruiter was, you know, be succinct and less jovial. And what I think is interesting is there's this paradigm of having enthusiasm and excitement and really, you know, showing that you're enthusiastic about the role, but that's exactly the opposite of gravitas, right? When you're gravitas, you're leaned back, you are talking more slowly and more deliberately, you're lower in the vocal range. Whereas when you are excited, you're fast-paced, you're excited, you're talking about it, you're lots of energy. And it's interesting because I don't know that a man would ever be told to be less jovial, right? They can kind of show off however they want to. Whereas we have to be authoritative and show command of the boardroom, but also we have to be positive and polished and optimistic. So I don't have an answer for that. I'm just saying I agree. High five to that question.
Yeah, I think we'll take one last question. Looks like we have a couple more minutes. I don't want to abuse people's time, but maybe we can take a question or two then, because people do want to hear all of you. Do you believe the concept being authentic self is overrated? I'm loving these questions. Who wants to pick that one?
I guess I don't think it's overrated. I think you have to be authentic, you have to show your authentic self, but you don't have to be a jerk. There's a respect and, a way of approaching things that is respectful of other people. And so, I tend to be very casual. I'm leaving most of my pirate mouth, off of the webcast. That's sort of my authentic self. I try not to do that when I'm at work. But I think there's a balance where you have to be respectful, and you have to think about too, like, what's your brand? So how do I want people to perceive me? And those behaviors have to come out in order for people to start to form those opinions. And so you think about what do I want someone else to go away with after I leave them? What do I want them to think about me? And make sure that you're exuding that brand to them.
The other question we have, and I think that will be our last question, so we wrap the session up on time. The other question we have is, do women on the panel have a board of directors? What that means if people know you, provide you feedback, and are invested in your success.
I have a board of directors. What I've found is that you have to have different boards for different things, right? You've got your mom squad, and they're your board of directors for anything that's related to your kids and family stuff. You've got your professional board of directors that helps you assess opportunities and identify what you need to do professionally. You've got your friend board of directors that are a good gut check to help you realize whether or not you're making good choices in your life and they seem to be making you happy. So I think it's great to have people that support you, and you can bring all your flaws to them, and they accept them. But I think you need to have a different board of directors based on which sphere of your life you're talking about.
And Tammylynne, you've done some wonderful things in the community, as well as finding ways to bring women together. So the MinFit group of professional women that meet roughly monthly, with different topics and stuff. I think that's a great example of kind of a board as well.
Yeah, I love all the questions. And with that, we are left with the 3-minute mark. We've been given 5 minutes extra today because of all the questions. So I think we can touch on one last that's out here, is how important are role models? Who were yours, and what are you doing to be one with other women? So it feels like a 2 question in one, but somebody wants to grab it.
I'd say role models are super, super important. My first role model was my physics teacher in high school. She was absolutely amazing, super proactive. She would encourage us really to go beyond and participate in all sorts of competitions. And I think that's super important, because you even end up liking a certain field just because you really like the teacher. And then as I left school, where I won some physics competitions, I felt this huge void, because I just couldn't find another mentor, let's say, to help. And of course, when you have a powerful role model, it also helps if you can also be in a mentoring relationship. So that's like the ideal scenario. And then later on in business, I found role models in the clients that we have, and also in women in the community that I'm a part of, because I'm part of the Women in Tech Cluj community. So yeah, I think you just have to look in order to find role models. And then if you want to go into a mentoring relationship, then of course you need to take that extra step. And what do I do to be a role model, especially to the women around? I think it's in a way connected to the authentic self question. I think it's really important to be yourself and show also your vulnerable or your imperfect side, so that you can really empower the others, and especially women who are maybe struggling with some self-doubt. Yeah, just empower them to have the confidence to take the step that they're fearing.
With that, we are at 10 a.m. Central mark. I want to thank Georgina, Tammylynne, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you all so much for participating, and not only participating, but actually being so candid and answering questions that normally people would never answer. So true to yourself. So thank you so much. I also want to thank Maria, Shelby, Foster, Valentine, Ale, everybody from the amazing Cognizant Softvision team that has worked endless hours to make Programmers Week possible. And finally, you, my dear, lovely audience, I want to make sure that you get something out of this. Our time is valuable, but your time is valuable too. So I hope the framework can help you. If not, that's okay too. But if the framework can help you self-reflect and find things that you can identify as chains in your career, try to find a plan to break them. Work with people around you to identify it if you can't. But believe me, only you know the true you. Others don't know the true you. So thank you all for attending. Thank you. I love you, adore you. Thank you so much. Keep inspiring, keep motivating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.